welcome to meeting number 33 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Health. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. To the honorable witnesses, I want you to keep an eye on the honorable member that have the floor. As soon as that honorable member raises the hand, I would like you to stop, so I don't want any crosstalk going for the best health of our interpreters. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on Tuesday, April the 21st, 2026, the committee shall resume its briefing session on prescribed IT. We will be meeting for a full 2 hours. I would like to welcome our witnesses. On behalf of the committee members, I would like to welcome from Canada Health Info, Board Chair Dr. Vaughan, and Strategic Advisor Ms. Tania Ensor, and from the TELUS Health, President Mohammed El Demirdash. Welcome. Each organization, both of you, will have 5 minutes for the opening statement. And with that, I will start with Dr. Vaughan. You have the floor, and for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président et Mesdames et
Hello,
Messieurs.
Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, members of the committee. I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity for being here today.
We now call Canada is the traditional territory of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples who have lived here since time immemorial, and I recognize their enduring presence from coast to coast to coast in the spirit of reconciliation. My name is Dr. Peter Vaughan, former Deputy Minister of Health and Wellness for the province of Nova Scotia, and former emergency physician, family physician, and Royal Canadian Air Force flight surgeon, a proud veteran. I appear before you today in my capacity as board chair for Canada Health Infoway. As an independent, federally funded not-for-profit organization, Canada Health Infoway has worked in partnership with successive federal, provincial, and territorial governments to advance digital health and connected care across Canada since 2001. Before I continue, I would like to acknowledge that the Board of Directors of Canada Health Infoway has recently announced a leadership transition. As of April 29, 2026, Michael Green is no longer with the organization. This reflects a board decision to ensure Canada Health Infoway's continued focus on its mandate and to position the organization for its next phase of connected care. The organization continues to be led and governed by the Board of Directors and senior executive team. The board is confident in the strength of the leadership team and the organization's continued ability to deliver on its priorities in partnership with federal, provincial, and territorial governments and health system stakeholders. I am here today to support the committee's work in a direct, transparent, and constructive way. I recognize the importance of this review and the responsibility to provide clear and factual information. Prescribe It was a significant national initiative delivered within Canada's federated health system with shared accountability across jurisdictions. To be clear, Canada Health Infoway's mandate was to establish the national technical infrastructure required to secure digital prescribing in Canada and supporting vendors and jurisdictions to connect to that system. We delivered on this mandate. Since its development in 2017, Prescribe It has established a pan-Canadian foundation for e-prescribing, including standardized data structures, secure prescription transmission, and integration across clinical and pharmacy systems. It enabled vendor onboarding and supported jurisdictional implementation with approximately 95% of pharmacies and electronic medical record vendors technically integrated and deployment across 9 jurisdictions. In 2023, Following confirmation that federal funding would not continue beyond the current agreement period, the board initiated a structured sustainability review focused on 3 priority options: a federal, provincial, territorial cost-sharing model, a public-private partnership, and an open standards approach. Canada Health InfoWay led extensive engagement with provinces and territories and engaged with 45 organizations, including tailored proposals and discussions at deputy minister and minister tables. Despite this engagement, no territory or province committed to a cost-sharing agreement, and all viable organizational proposals required ongoing public funding. On November 12, 2025, the board concluded that an open standards model was the most responsible path forward. The open standards model would preserve public investment made through Prescribe It by carrying forward shared national assets, including standards, tools, and implementation knowledge. These support provinces and territories in implementing within their own systems where the levers to drive adoption exist. The board's role has been to ensure that Canada Health InfoWay delivered on its mandate, which it did. Decisions about the future of Prescribe It were made transparently, based on evidence, and in the best interest of the Canadian healthcare systems. I look forward to answering your questions and supporting the committee in your review. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vaughan. 4 minutes, 54 seconds. Perfect. And we can go to Mr. Mohammed. Right. So we will now, I'm going to reset my watch, and we will go to Mr. Mohammed El Demirdash for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to be here in person. We provided a technical expert for the April 21st meeting, given the tight timelines, and appreciate that several important questions remained. I am here today to provide the clear, factual account the committee requires, and I will try to keep my remarks brief to allow maximum time for your questions. To understand our work, it is helpful to view Prescribe It not just as a piece of software, but as a managed digital highway. Over the 9-year life of this program, TELUS Health received an average of approximately $10.9 million per year to build, operate, and maintain the national highway. This annual fee was not a one-time purchase. It was the cost of a managed service. It ensured the highway was open 24 hours a day with continuous security patrolling, 24/7 technical monitoring, and the rigorous auditing required for national health data. Our work covered 2 areas. First, we built and operated the highway itself, the core system that allows different healthcare providers to talk to one another. Second, a much smaller portion supported our role as one of the many users on that highway, where we adapted our own electronic medical record systems and pharmacy products to meet the precise specifications designed by Canada Health InfoWay. From a technical perspective, the highway was a success. We delivered a 99.9% uptime record. The road was always open, it was secure, and it worked exactly as intended and designed by the program owner. Over the course of the program, more than 181 million prescriptions traveled across this highway safely and securely. We were able to launch this system effectively because TELUS Health brought significant pre-existing assets to the table. Roughly 85% of the underlying technology was already built. This saved the government the time and the expense of building a new road from scratch. I should also note that the entire team managing this project has been based in Canada, and anyone accessing personal health information would have had protected B clearance. Finally, I want to address the challenge of adoption or the traffic on the highway. TELUS Health was contracted to build a high-performance, 6-lane managed highway. We were asked to build this capacity to meet InfoWay's aggressive forecasts of 300 million annual prescriptions and 50,000 plus prescribers. We delivered that 6-lane capacity, and we maintained it with 99.9% reliability for nearly a decade. However, as the technology partner, we do not control the traffic. The traffic generators, the policy mandates, the clinical workflow rules, and the clinical and the clinician onboarding process were the responsibility of the program owner, InfoA, and the government. We operated the service to the specifications we were given. However, when we saw that the lanes were sitting empty and the projected traffic was not materializing, we proactively raised our concerns. We shared our technical observations through a clinical advisory board and in discussions with our partners at InfoA and Health Canada. Our message was consistent. To get traffic moving on a national scale, you need to make things easier for prescribers and mandate integration and common national standards. We are proud of the technical integrity of the managed service we provided. We built a world-class highway that proved national e-prescribing is technically viable, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Al Demirdash, 3 minutes, 44 seconds. Good timing. And now, before we go to the honorable members, beside the regular committee members, we have Mr. Gill serving for Mr. Bailey. Mr. Gill, welcome to the committee. And with that, I will start the 6 minutes round with Mr. Major for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, guests. Dr. Vaughan, why did Canada Health Infoway Board fire Michael Green as their CEO?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The board is comprised of deputy ministers and senior and their representatives from the provinces and territories and Health Canada and independent members across the country. We had been looking into changing leadership prior to that to meet the needs of the organization going forward. We accelerated that decision based on the focus on the CEO and not the mandate.
Was it because of the failed performance?
Mr. Wong.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The issue was really the mandate focus, and we were already looking for going forward different leadership. We had to accelerate that because of it.
So you had to accelerate it. So what was the final plan? I guess it was because you were definitely looking at his performance before all this broke loose. Did it have anything to do with the committee reports coming out here?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. The committee process was not the deciding point. We had already, as I indicated, we were looking forward to a different leadership. These are different times, and we need different leadership going forward. And we had already had that in place.
Dr. Vaughan, did Michael Green receive a severance package when he was fired as CEO? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, thank you for that question. That is currently in discussion.
Discussion like how? Like you did a terrible job, so now you're going to get a severance package? Performance packages I thought were normally paid because they did really good. So $215,000 is a maximum performance package. You're actually considering not giving him that again?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The severance package is not the same thing as a performance package, I think is the answer to the question.
Honorable member.
So my question was, is he going to receive a severance package when he was fired as CEO?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. As I indicated, that is in current discussions.
Okay, Dr. Vaughan, according to the documents submitted to this committee, Michael Green received a performance bonus of over $250,000 last year. Your own documents confirm that this is the maximum bonus allowed for great performance. So during your time as board chair, was there ever a year when Michael Green did not receive the maximum performance award? Yes or no?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Yes, there were times when he did not receive the maximum performance, and to my recollection, that was frequently the case that he did not receive the maximum performance.
Can you table those years that he did not get those maximum performance awards?
Mr. Chair, would be happy to provide that information should you request it.
Honorable member.
Dr. Vaughan, the federal government appointed 2 directors to the Canada Health Infoway Board. One is yourself, and the other is Jocelyn Voisin. Ms. Voisin is the Federal Health Minister's Senior Assistant Deputy Minister at Health Canada. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct.
Honorable member.
Dr. Vaughan, did Ms. Voisin vote to approve Michael Green's maximum performance bonus last year? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I don't recall the details of that particular vote. We can have that reflected in the minutes. I'm happy to share that.
Honorable member.
Was the vote for him to get his maximum performance reward unanimous, or was there discrepancy on the board?
Honorable Mr. Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Frequently, just stepping back, Health Canada often doesn't vote for or against. They abstain on funding kind of questions, and so I don't believe there was anyone who voted who was opposed to it. But we could check with the minutes, Mr. Chair, and provide that for you.
Honorable member.
Yeah, so that you'll table the votes on performance awards. Dr. Vaughan, has the current federal health minister, ever personally raised concerns with you or the board about the $300 million spent on prescribed IT?
Dr. Vaughan.
Yes or no?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The answer is no.
Honorable member.
She's never raised it with you. Like the current minister has never no reservations with prescribed IT.
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question. Prescribe It is actually a successful program, as we've heard, that was delivered across Canada. It actually works.
Honorable member.
I think that's rather debatable. But Dr. Vaughan, has the current federal health minister ever personally raised concerns with you, and I think you've answered this already, or the board, about how InfoWay is spending taxpayer money? Yes or no?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. The answer is no. We have submit all of our documents quarterly to Health Canada, and annually the contribution agreement is audited and submitted.
Remember.
Is Canada Health InfoWay a not-for-profit organization? Yes or no?
Thank you for the question,
Dr.
Mr.
Vaughan.
Chair. Yes, it is a not-for-profit agency.
Honorable member.
So, Dr. Vaughan, do you know what the Prime Minister of Canada makes for a salary?
Mr. Chair, no, I currently don't have that before me.
Okay.
Honorable member.
It's just over $435,000. So Michael Green's the CEO of Canada Health InfoWay. Total compensation was nearly $900,000.
The time is up. Dr. Vaughan, short answer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The short answer is that we look at the environment in which we work with the comparator groups around health IT, pharmaceuticals, and hospital administration in Ontario, and particularly downtown Toronto. That's the comparator groups that are looked at.
Thank you. 6 minutes, 24 seconds. We will go to now MP Sidhu. Please go ahead, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. My first questions go to Dr. Vaughan. Dr. Vaughan, I see there's a significant difference between pharmacies and prescribers. From your perspective, what was the experience of implementing and using Prescribe It, particularly among prescribers? Adoption rate differ widely, about 95% pharmacies and EMR vendors compared to 27% of prescribers, with only less than 5% of prescriptions sent through Prescribe It. What explains this gap?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Chair. It is actually very consistent with international comparators at this stage. In the U.S., for example, at this stage they had 3% adoption. And what did they do? They brought in incentives and mandate through legislation. Every OECD country that has electronic prescribing as a national service has either mandated or used incentives, and that falls within the realm of the provinces and territories. InfoWay is about enablement, but we do not have the resort or the power to or the policy levers that the provinces and territories do.
Can you clarify and explain what each of your respective roles and responsibility in developing, implementing, and maintaining Prescribe It were, along with the roles and responsibilities of vendors and provinces and territories?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you. Can you speak up again, please?
So, please.
Remember to repeat.
Thank you, Chair. Please clarify and explain what each of your respective roles and responsibilities in developing, implementing, and maintaining Prescribe It were, along with the roles and responsibilities of vendors and provinces and territories.
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. If I could ask my colleague, who's very much involved with Prescribe It technically, to perhaps answer that question.
Ms. Hansor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. InfoWay's responsibilities was for setting the policy and direction of the organization itself, setting the specifications, the standards, and then working with vendors to onboard onto the managed service provider system through TELUS. We had a role as well from TELUS's perspective, or from InfoWay's perspective, to oversee the work that TELUS did and hold them accountable to the contract that we had negotiated with them. We also had a significant role working with provinces and territories, working with them to enable the system with their technical systems, but also provide them information and encouragement to grow adoption, hold pilots, build the use of the system significantly. TELUS's responsibility was for the managed service provision of the platform, but they also had a role as a vendor with one of the largest EMR and pharmacy system vendors in Canada. So they had a role to help grow adoption with their physicians, with their pharmacies, their customer base, because they were the ones that were truly interacting with that group.
Honourable Member.
If there's any challenge arose with the program, what was the role to addressing them, and what type of problems fell within any response in your response?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The challenges were really around adoption, and when we look at the provinces and territories where there was good uptake, the adoption was around 27%. So it really depended on policy levers, and that is the international lesson. That is the takeaway from all of this, is that the enablement is in and of itself is not sufficient. We need either mandate or incentive. We went through exactly the same thing that many will recall 20 years ago on electronic medical record adoption. Now we have 95% or more adoption, but that took mandates and incentives to occur.
Honourable Member.
Our next question is TELUS. From TELUS' perspective, what specific efforts were made to make Prescribe It more appealing and practical for physicians, nurse practitioners, and other prescribers using electronic medical records in their day-to-day work?
Mr. Al Demirdash.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. From TELUS Health's perspective, important to note that our main responsibility in this case was to deliver, as I mentioned earlier, the technology, the managed service, and the highway. I will add, though, to your question that as we as well saw that the adoption was not high through the fact that the number of transactions that are going through this highway were much lower than expected, we did convene in 2021 a clinical advisory board, which is something that we do to assess our products in general in the market. This is a advisory board that would be comprised of those prescribers, those individuals, and got their feedback on why the adoption from their perspective was not as high as expected. We took that feedback from them and provided that feedback to Canada Health InfoWay as an opportunity to provide improvements to the standards that are put in place.
30 seconds, honourable members.
How often did TELUS update, modify, and modernize the product?
Mr. Al Demirdash.
We implemented every request that came through that was approved from Canada Health InfoWay. There were approximately 59 change requests that came through over the life of the program that we implemented and executed to the specifications that were put to us.
Thank you, and the time is up, exactly 6 minutes. So we will go to Honourable Member of Parliament, Mr. Blanchett Jonka, for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Dr. Wong, est-ce que vous
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Wong, do you recognize that a utilization rate of less than 5% after $300 million would mean that the program failed? Yes or no?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the question. I think the mandate that we fulfilled was the technical delivery of that program. The adoption of that And those levers depend on the provinces and territories to implement.
Dr. Vaughan, oui ou non? 5%.
Yes or no? 5%. What was the objective of the program?
If we can have only one member when they're speaking, we should respect their time. So back to you, Mr. Blanchett-Jonka.
Merci. Dr. Vaughan, oui.
Thank you. Dr. Wan, yes or no, is it a failure or a success, the Canada Health InfoWay program?
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Chair. Canada Health InfoWay delivered on its mandate, and as we've heard, it works. If you would characterize it as a failure, it's a collective failure, a collective failure of the health systems to adopt and implement through mandates and incentives, which is the lesson from every international example.
Member.
Québec, cette année,
In Quebec, the utilization rate was 0.5%. In Ontario, 73%. What explains this?
Very much for the question, Mr. Chair. The adoption is in the area and the responsibility of provinces and territories. In the province of Quebec, there was a very successful pilot. The provinces and territories have various other priorities that I can speak to, and they're in different places, and they have some are more receptive than others at that particular time. And so they need to have the opportunity going forward. That's why we're developing open standards, to allow them to implement based on their particular needs. The provinces and territories are responsible for the adoption. We can only do so much. We can lead the horse to water. You can't make him, how the rest of it goes.
Member.
vous avez coordonné un
You coordinated an IT program to put prescriptions into electronic environments. So initially it was 2017. Do you know when Quebec decided to get access to it? In 2023. So I would like you to explain, as the chair of the board, the 6-year delay. So you did not manage to convince a province to opt in to this program? It took you that long?
Thank you for the chair. I might ask my colleague to.
The discussions with Quebec were ongoing, and because of the unique situation that Quebec had with its systems and some of the organizational offerings that they had, they wanted to ensure that they had a system that worked with their specific and unique needs. We did work with Quebec very, very closely, and we made a number of modifications to the system to allow for their participation. We did have an agreement with them that we negotiated. It went through Quebec's complex approval process. It was approved eventually. And then there was a reorganization with Santé Québec. So there were some significant delays.
D'accord.
Member.
Des délais significatifs, 6 ans.
So significant delays, yes, 6 years. So Dr. Vaughan, do you think that Quebecers got a good return on their investment for their money 6 years after the participation happened only, and the utilization rate is 0.5%? So you're saying that your program is a success, such a success that it's ending by in late May. So please explain to me what the initial objective was if this is a success. And we're now pulling the plug on the program altogether.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. The Prescribe It program is a technological success, and it delivered a pan-Canadian highway, to use that analogy. The provinces and territories have to address the adoption, and they have opportunities and levers like mandates and incentives. That is the role of Canada InfoWay is an enabler.
Okay.
We can develop the tools.
Ouais. Dr. Vaughan, est-ce que vous jugez que votre organisation a toujours fait...
Dr. Vaughan, do you believe that your organization remains transparent in its actions and communications?
For the question, Mr. Chair, yes, very much so, Mr. Chair. We have provided much information on our website, and we've provided all information to the committee that's been requested.
D'accord. Compte rendu de votre rencontre.
So the minutes from your meeting of December 11, 2025. So these are all redacted documents. Second page, redacted as well. We cannot really tell what's going on. A third page. Is this transparency, Dr. Wan? $300 million of taxpayers' money, and you are sending us redacted pages of your minutes of your meeting. Is this really accountability for Quebecers and Canadians?
Dr. Wan.
Mr. Chair, there are some elements perhaps that are not pertinent to the questions that are being asked for the committee, and those would be.
Donc, vous gérez des fonds publics, mais vous ne voulez pas savoir ce que le public fait
So
avec.
you're taking public money, but you don't want the public at large to know what you're doing with their money?
Dr. Wan, short answer,
Wow.
please.
Canada Health InfoWay is transparent. We do public reporting quarterly to Health Canada.
It's already 6:16. Thank you. Now we will go to Madam Konaz for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Dr. Vaughn, can you resubmit those minutes without the redaction?
Dr. Wan.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, we will do that.
Thank you. We look forward
Honourable
to seeing
member.
that. InfoWay, Dr. Vaughn, InfoWay is funded by taxpayers but calls itself a nonprofit. You said you look at comparables for salaries. Can you name one other federally funded not-for-profit in Canada that pays its CEO nearly $900,000 a year, as you did Mr. Green?
Dr. Wan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. There are many hospital sectors that are not-for-profit, and they also have comparable.
Okay,
Honourable member.
if you would actually table a few of those examples for us, that would be great, because you must have done your homework when you decide to pay him $900,000.
You want to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we'll provide whatever information the committee asks.
Honourable member.
Dr. Vaughn, did Mr. Green sign a non-disclosure agreement prior to his termination as the CEO of InfoWay?
Dr. Wan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. As I had indicated to an earlier question, that is currently in discussion, and there's been no discussion about
Who are you
non-disclosure.
actually discussing that with?
Dr. Wan.
Our Mr. Chair, through you, the discussion are really, as anyone's familiar with HR situations like this, takes place between lawyers at the end of the day.
Okay. Does InfoWay require all departing employees to sign a non-disclosure agreement after their departure?
Dr. Wan.
Mr. Chair, through you, I'm not aware of any such phenomena.
Honourable member.
What metrics, Dr. Vaughn, did the InfoWay board use to determine Mr. Green's performance bonus of over $250,000 last year if you were planning a change, as you said you were? You said that a change was in discussion. So what were the metrics for giving him a $215,000 bonus?
Dr. Wan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The performance bonus based on achievement of corporate objectives is the standard for CEO remuneration.
So he
Remember.
was successful. You felt last year he was on the road to success for Canadians.
Dr. Wan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the question. InfoWay does more than just one program, and in the totality of the corporate objectives, the achievement was such that he did succeed in last year.
Honourable member.
He succeeded last year, but he did so poorly this year he was fired.
Dr. Wan.
Mr. Chair, going forward, the requirements of the organization to meet its new priorities with connected care require us to look at that. It wasn't a decision based on last year's performance.
Honourable member.
It was a decision made after our last committee meeting.
It was
Dr. Wan.
Mr. Chair, it was a decision that was in discussion. Prior to that, the focus on the CEO was the trigger.
Honourable member.
The focus on the CEO who made over $200,000 bonus last year, but was okay. Okay. I think we'll move on. Dr. Vaughn, this morning, the Globe and Mail reported that in just 3 years, Canada Health Infoway spent over $23 million on third-party consultants. These include lobbying firms, multinational IT companies. Infoway has 175 employees, so why does a taxpayer-funded organization need to hire lobbyists and consultants to outsource their work? It was paid to do by the government.
Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. It is not uncommon for healthcare organizations to look at non-permanent, time-bound resources to be outsourced, and that's not unusual, and tendered contracts are a part of that process.
Ron, the tendered contracts on the Canada Health Infoway site show a one-time payment of $178,500 to a numbered company, 2184103 Ontario Inc. Who owns that company, and what did Infoway buy for $178,500?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'd have to get that detail for you.
Can table that for us? That would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Dr. Vaughn, the Canada Health Infoway website only displays tendered contracts from 2024 to 2026. Where's the rest of the information? Why does the website only contain information from those years?
Time is up. Dr. Wong, short answer, please.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chair. I think it's just a matter of trying to be current.
506. Thank you very much, Honourable Member. So we will now go to Honourable Member of Parliament, Mr. Rana, for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all the witnesses for your valuable time. Dr. Demirdash, how are you navigating technological access issues to ensure more Canadians can use programs like Prescribe?
Mr. L. Demirdash.
Question. We obviously have very strong beliefs in the importance of connected care for Canadians and the importance of making data accessible and having ownership of data. And we've had several products that we've released, and we spend a lot on developing innovations and technologies pursuant to that goal. Recently, as relevant to e-prescriptions, we released a white paper on our viewpoint on how we can get the Canadian health system to continue to advance from a connectivity standpoint, as well as getting to a successful e-prescription program in place.
Honourable Member.
How do digital tools like Prescribe It address rural, Indigenous, or underserved populations?
Mr. L. Demirdash.
Thank you for the question. The benefit of having standard technology is then the ability for everybody to be able to connect to it and having a common standard. And in this case, the way the technology was implemented, it would allow any rural area, Indigenous communities, anyone to be able to connect to the system.
Remember,
you see AI fitting into prescribing and medication safety?
Mr. Al Demirdash.
Thank you for the question. We believe in safe and ethical utilization of AI. We believe in guardrails and safe utilization of technology. In all scenarios where we use artificial intelligence, we prioritize the importance of making sure that it is safe for the application that it is used for, but it is definitely a technology that is important to utilize to advance technology.
Remember,
how do you measure success for a pan-Canadian digital health initiative?
Mr. Al Demirdash.
Thank you for the question. Success, as we look and compare against several other countries out there, success is going to be in the adoption of the program, getting the technology in place, but also having the standards and the mandates in place to be able to get more people to utilize the technology and take advantage of it.
Honourable Member.
Dr. Van, you have been Deputy Minister for Health and Wellness for Nova Scotia. So how do you see the federal and provincial challenges impacting digital health adoption?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. the challenges of the federated health model are significant. Other countries that have faced similar challenges have developed digital agencies with legislative clout to tackle some of the challenges. Otherwise, you are appealing to the goodwill of provinces and territories have their own priorities.
Honourable Member.
Censor, we had a wonderful flight the other day, thank you, and wonderful chat about health system. So what are the biggest privacy and security challenges in virtual health systems?
Dr. Wong.
Question, Mr. Chair. There are lots of security and privacy challenges. I think we read about AI and quantum computing coming within a period of time that's probably faster than we would like or expect to be ready for it. But the challenges are ongoing, and that's why the success of Prescribe It was so important, because we're able to take all those privacy and security pieces and lessons learned and to develop an open standards approach, which InfoWay has been successful at doing going forward.
Member.
What are the biggest barriers to scaling Prescribe It nationally?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The biggest challenges, I think, were the lack of incentive or mandate. Those are the biggest challenges, and if you look, as I said, internationally, those are the lessons learned here.
13 seconds, Honourable Member.
What incentives are required for providers to adopt digital tools like Prescribe It?
Dr. Wong, short answer.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Just like we went through with electronic medical records, provinces incented doctors to adopt the technological tool. Similarly, in other jurisdictions, they have paid physicians to become a part of that, and as a part of their remuneration, they put that they would be required.
Thank you very much. 521. We will go to Mr. Blanchett Jonka for 6 minutes.
Monsieur le Président. Dr. Vaughan, vous dites...
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Vaughan, you're saying Prescribe It is a technological success. 85% of the intellectual property remains with TELUS, despite the fact that almost $300 million of public money is spent. So what is the public success story in all this for you?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I think that the technological success, as we've heard, the highway works. The highway has been built. The challenge is in the adoption at the provinces and territories level.
Honourable Member.
Well, if the provinces want to put into use the application, but there's only 15% of public intellectual property, does that make sense?
Mr. Chair, I think going forward, the open standards approach, which allows for customization for provinces and territories, building on all of the great work that Prescribe It fulfilled, allows for the provinces and territories to develop tools that make sense in this rapidly evolving technological environment.
Honourable Member.
Dr. Vaughan, en mars 2023...
Dr. Vaughan, in March 2023, you started a feasibility study. If you knew that it wasn't viable, why did you continue to invest?
Wong.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The question was in the fact that Health Canada advised us that we would not be having any ongoing funding after March 2026. So we continued to provide the service at that in that interval, at the same time looking to use the valuable lessons learned and resources, the security, the authentication, the tools, the technical tools that can be used in the open standards approach, as we have in e-consult, e-referral, and patient summary.
Honourable Member.
Dr. Vaughan, c'était quoi le seuil d'utilisation que vous aviez?
What was the utilization target you set out for yourself to judge whether the program was viable, and did you reach that threshold, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask my colleague for the technical question.
Madam Ansar, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The target that we had sent out for ourselves to be financially sustainable was, I think, 75% of all transactions in Canada.
Non. Donc là, on est à 5
But you're at 5%, give or take.
Yes.
Donc c'est un échec.
So it is a failure.
Dr. Vaughn.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. If you wish to describe it as a failure, something that has been developed that works at 99% technical success.
Dr. Vaughn, 5 sur 75.
Mr. Vaughn, 5 on the one hand, on the other hand, you have 75. The math simply doesn't work. I mean, we hopefully had the same math classes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. The reality is, Mr. Chair, that the Canada Health Infoway cannot make provinces or territories use their policy levers, and so we did everything we could to enable, but we couldn't make them mandate or legislate or use their policy levers.
You have 2 minutes and 23 seconds.
D'accord, Dr. Vaughn.
Okay, Dr. Vaughn, we can keep talking about the program's success criteria, but it is coming to an end at the end of May. So a program that comes to an end, for me, it's a failure. So I would like to know when you decided as the board to let the CEO, Mr. Green, go.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the question of when the CEO was relieved of his duties was last Wednesday.
Est-ce que vous êtes d'accord en guise...
Do you agree, for transparency purposes, to making publicly available the minutes of this board meeting where the decision was made?
Mr. Chair, as you can appreciate, this is an in-camera conversation around personnel and human resources, and so I defer.
D'accord.
Just one person at a time, please.
Oui,
Honourable member.
Bon. Donc, Dr. Vaughn, vous aviez dit...
So, Dr. Vaughn, you were saying that you were always transparent. Now you're saying you don't want to tell us what happens during your board meetings, but you're managing $300 million of public money. Is that the case?
Mr. Chair, we would be happy to make those available to you with the understanding that they are confidential and in camera.
Dr. Vaughn, on est d'accord que si tout a bien été géré...
So if everything was managed correctly, everything should be publicly available. And Dr. Vaughn, I'm just trying to understand if you could go back and redo things from scratch, what would you have done differently so that the program would not come to an end in late May?
30 seconds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Great question. I think lessons learned are that in a federated health model, there needs to be some kind of national ties that brings things together across the country, and that's a legislated piece that would drive that.
Honourable member, 20 seconds.
Donc, Dr. Vaughn, vous reconnaissez
So,
que...
Dr. Vaughn, you're recognizing that the federal government should not have stepped into Quebec's jurisdiction and should have instead given the resources to the provinces for a system that would have worked.
The time is up, but short answer. Please go ahead.
I'm not sure what the question was, Mr. Chair.
I will stop the watch and I will ask the honourable member to repeat.
Dr. Vaughn, la santé, c'est une compétence...
So health is the jurisdiction of provinces, so Quebec's jurisdiction. We are managing the program, so we should have had the money for a program like this that manages healthcare services. And potentially we would have done a better job of integrating it into our system, which is different than the systems of other provinces.
Short answer, please.
Thank you for the question. In a federated health model, and Canadians wanting to move across the country and their health needs move with them, as in other jurisdictions, and no matter what province or territory they come from, they need to have that information follow them. What Prescribe It was trying to do, and did in fact, was deliver that solution.
Thank you very much. And in 6 minutes, 35 seconds, now we will go to Dr. Strauss. Dr. Strauss, 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Dr. Vaughn, do board members at Canada Health Infoway receive any sort of compensation?
Dr. Vaughn.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. They have a per diem for board meetings. The board chair has an annual retainer, and the committee chairs as well.
What is your annual compensation?
My annual retainer is $14,500.
Thank you. I noticed that Dr. Eric Hoskins, a former Ontario Liberal Health Minister, was on the board. Who appointed him?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Dr. Hoskins was a part of an independent director search, and he was recruited as a part of an independent search.
Honourable member.
So the board, under your leadership, appointed him?
As an independent member from Ontario.
Who appointed you?
I was appointed by the Deputy Minister of Health in 2017.
Okay, so under the auspices of the Liberal Federal Health Minister appointed you, and then under your leadership, you appointed another Ontario Liberal Health Minister. It just seems like the ice cream licking itself a little bit. Are there any other Liberal insiders on the board currently or in the past?
Dr. Vaughan.
Mr. Chair, I couldn't answer. I don't know. We don't discuss the political leanings.
Thank you. Dr. Hoskins, the former Liberal minister, is a partner at Mavericks Health Equity. I believe he was a partner at that health equity firm while he served on the board. What sort of ethics screen did he go through to ensure that Canada Health Infoway wasn't giving contracts to members of his portfolio?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a great question, and Canada Health Infoway has a conflict of interest guidelines and policy, and every board meeting, members must declare if there's any conflict, and they have to abstain from that.
Remember.
So there was no particular screen pertaining to Mavericks Health Equity. It would have been incumbent on Dr. Hoskins at any point to say that there was a conflict. The Canada Health Infoway didn't suss that out.
Dr. Vaughan.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Were any of the contracts, the consulting contracts and others that Canada Health Infoway awarded, were any of them sole sourced?
Dr. Vaughan.
As I recall, Mr. Chair, we had a contract with PwC, which had a previous vendor of record tendered process. That's the only one that I can recall.
Okay. Could you perform some sort of back end, see if there were other sole source contracts and table with us if there have been?
Happy to do that, Mr. Chair. I'm not aware of any other.
Thank you, sir. What did Michael Green deliver tangibly to the taxpayers who paid his salary to justify his performance bonus last year?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last year, all of the corporate objectives, and there are many, and we can articulate and give you that information. He achieved that. The organization achieved it. Prescribe It did fulfill its mandate, notwithstanding the challenges around adoption.
Okay, so I mean, corporate objective sounds rather abstract. So concretely, specifically, is there a tangible benefit to taxpayers that you can think of that Mr. Green delivered?
Dr. Vaughan.
Chair, the financial accounting and reporting and contribution agreements that were externally audited all showed a well-run organization.
Okay, I thank you for the answer, but I don't hear anything concrete and specific that taxpayers benefited from. Mr. Green, I understand, was dismissed at a board meeting that had not been regularly occurring. It was an unscheduled meeting, then it was scheduled. When was it scheduled?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The question is, when was
it called?
When was it called?
Yeah.
Last Wednesday. I don't remember the date, but...
Is that the day after his testimony to this committee?
Dr. Vaughan.
Or it's a week after?
It's the week later, yeah.
Thank you. I understand that Canada Health Infoway has received a total of $4 billion from governments over the last 20 years. What concrete, tangible, specific examples of benefit that the Canadian taxpayer has received from those $4 billion?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Canada Health Infoway was instrumental in the digitization of diagnostic and diagnostic imaging, laboratory services, electronic medical records. All of those pieces of the puzzle were a part of the Canada Health Infoway remit.
So I just have to contest that because your memory will go back further than mine. I was a medical student in 2004. I was working in hospitals. Radiology was already digitized in the Kitchener Hospital where I volunteered. I don't see that Canada Health Infoway had anything to do with that.
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question. Canada Health Infoway had a significant role in rolling out federal funding to the provinces and territories to lead and allow the adoption of diagnostic imaging and medical record evolution to the digitizing.
5 minutes and 10 seconds. So we will go to Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Madam Chi. Go ahead, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for coming. Yep. Yeah, yeah. Do we need to evacuate? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Chair. No worries. Thank you to all the witnesses. I'm not too sure who this question would be directed towards, but at the last meeting when we had TELUS Health and InfoWay, there was, we discovered TELUS Health owned 85% of the IP, and I guess InfoWay owned 15% through the rollout of the program. I just wanted some clarification, right? Because I think in some of the notes I've read that during the development of the program, there is consultation with folks. What did that look like when you first started consulting with physicians and pharmacists and like people who would use the program? What were some early flags? How were they working the program? Because I'm also aware there were several change orders as part of this I guess, program management. So if you can describe that to us, that'll be great.
Dr. Vaughn?
I've asked my colleague who's been with the program the entire time.
Go ahead, please.
Consultations with the physicians actually identified new opportunities for new functionality and improvements in existing functionality. And so we then executed change orders to require the TELUS system to adapt to those needs.
Honourable member.
Thank you. And then just to follow up to that, there's another note that says the physician-clinician adoption isn't high compared to pharmacists. I just want to try to understand why that's the case throughout the course of the program, why that wasn't addressed to increase the adoption rate. Is it because, when you submit the change order, it wasn't fast enough, it wasn't changed in time, or, what were some of the issues?
Ms. Ansar, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The adoption for physicians was very different because the nature of the work is very different. A pharmacist works and uses their skill in a digital environment. A physician, while using electronic health records, their focus, their general, for a family doctor, is generally on the patient themselves. So getting them to work in using a functionality in a workflow to share this information digitally is different. And there are other technologies out there like eFax and such that are also a form of electronic prescribing, but not digital data prescribing. That's different because the security and the privacy and the different elements that Prescribe offered were significant in addition to functionality like clinical comms.
Thank you. Okay, so that will lead to my next, I guess, two questions. Probably either Dr. Vaughn or Ms. Answer is, I know InfoWay has described the next step is the national standard, setting up the national standard. If, the challenge was with some of the digital records or EMRs not being able to go online or adoption rate, how do you work through that in order for the national standard to be successful, looking forward?
That's a really great question, and the challenge will continue to plague us until we look at a systemized way to digitize our systems, to make interoperability a requirement, not only for provinces and territories, but federal members as well, that it is important that we work together as one voice. It's critical that provinces and territories continue to deliver on healthcare as is their requirement, but there does need to be a national standard set out by Canada as to what adoption should look like.
Remember, you have 50 seconds.
50 seconds. Okay. So 15% of the IP. So currently InfoWay sits on the 15% of the IP. Would that serve as a good foundation going forward, or do you still need, some sort of work to make it work, I guess? Yeah.
Ms. Ansar, 30 seconds.
Thank you, sir. The question to clarify on the IP, we are now working with provinces and territories very, very closely to help support their goals for the next stage of e-prescribing for their future. That may be for some provinces to work with TELUS. In that case, we are offering to those provinces and territories directly that 15% of IP to allow them to take advantage of the full functionality that was available under Prescribe It. Another feature that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about is the custom technology that we developed as a backup in case the TELUS system should fail or need to be replaced. That too is being offered to provinces and territories for their futures.
Thank you very much. 5 minutes, 20 seconds. We will go to Mr. Major for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Dr. Vaughan, are you aware that Canada Health InfoWay's Executive Vice President, Abby Carla, was previously employed as Director of Information Technology for Pharmacy and Healthcare by Loblaws, which is a parent company of Shoppers Drug Mart? Yes or no?
Mr. Wong.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I believe I heard that.
Honorable member.
According to InfoWay, Shoppers Drug Mart received over $8 million for Prescribe IT. In fact, they were the largest vendor recipient of Prescribe IT funding. Whoa.
Sorry, go ahead. Keep on.
Does Abby Carla hold any shares or stock options in Loblaw Companies Limited? Yes or no?
Mr. Wong.
I don't know the answer to that.
Honorable member.
Dr. Vaughan, Abby Carla also previously worked at both Oracle Canada and Deloitte. According to Canada Health InfoWay, both of these companies responded to the request for expression of interest to take over Prescribe IT. Will you table all conflict of interest declarations and recusals filed by Mr. Carla over the life of the Prescribe IT program? Please.
Dr. Wong.
Can I ask a clarification of what specifically?
I'll stop the watch and I will ask the honorable member if
Well, you did say like the table of conflict of interest.
Yes.
So obviously these people had previous experience of what they were actually bidding on, what they were working on. So if they did declare, you did mention before about they were self-declaring a conflict of interest. So, and how do you, so that's what I'm trying to establish. Can you table their declarations of any conflicts of interest?
Thank you.
Just please table
Dr.
that
Wong.
information.
Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the answer is yes.
Thank you, honorable member. Please go ahead.
Dr. Vaughan, the Chief Financial Officer of Canada Health InfoWay, David Fast, joined Canada Health InfoWay in 2024. Prior to this, he was the president of AGFA Healthcare North America. Michael Green was the president of CEO of AGFA Healthcare Americas before joining Canada Health InfoWay. Was the CFO position competitively posted, and what was the hiring process for it?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the question. At that time, as I recall, we were looking for an interim chief financial officer, and so he was brought in in an interim role, which he still has.
You table it with the committee how many applicants applied for the most recent CFO Canada Health InfoWay?
Mr. Chair, the committee looks for that. We'd be happy to provide.
Yeah.
Honorable member, please go ahead.
Dr. Vaughan, how much money has Canada Health InfoWay provided to AGFA Healthcare since 2017?
Dr. Wong, Ms. Ansar, go ahead.
I honestly don't recall any detail.
After all these questions, who enforces the conflict of interest? So I can sit back here and I can say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but if I kind of wink and I sit at the board table, who actually enforces this? How do you do that?
Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. The corporate counsel would be the one who oversees that.
Where do they sit? Corporate counsel.
Dr. Wong. Honorable member, you still have 2 minutes.
Still have 2 minutes.
Yes.
Well, there you go. I guess I'll go back to the CFO. We want to know if that was an actually competitive process.
Dr. Wong.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. At that particular time, we were looking for someone as an interim role, and that is still the case. And so he was brought in an interim role.
Honorable member.
Okay, Dr. Vaughan, last month, Michael Green told this committee that this salary was, quote, publicly disclosed. Can you confirm whether Mr. Green's compensation was publicly disclosed on InfoWay's website during that meeting? Yes or no?
Dr. Vaughn.
Mr. Chair, as I recall, that was not the case, that it was subsequently rectified.
So he lied?
Dr. Vaughn.
Mr. Chair, I think it was an error.
So according to the archives of your website, the compensation disclosure hyperlink was not posted on InfoWay's website as of March 11th. Furthermore, the metadata of the earliest version of the disclosure we received suggests the document was created on April 24th, 3 days after Mr. Green's committee appearance.
Dr. Vaughn.
Mr. Chair, it was rectified that it should have been.
Honorable member, 15 seconds.
So was his salary publicly available before then? If so, where?
Dr. Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. It was publicly available in documents submitted to the federal government and provinces and territories.
Member.
Can you table with the committee all compensation disclosures since 2016 and 17?
Dr. Vaughn.
Chair, if the committee is looking for that, we'd be happy to provide that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The time was right on 5:05. So we now will go to Mr. Swaski for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the witnesses. First question is for TELUS Health. Could you walk the committee through how Prescribe It was originally developed, particularly how key partners were brought in and how decisions were made about the platform structure and delivery?
Mr. Al Demirdash.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. In 2017, when the RFP was awarded to us, we began to the implementation per the design that was put forth to us by Canada Health InfoWay as part of the RFP process. We either had our own technology that we brought to the table, this 85% approximately of the IP that has been mentioned earlier, along with us developing the remainder per the specification that we had. We did not have any subcontracted work as per se. We did have some fixed-term contractors that joined our team in the period between 2017 and 2020 that brought in some technical expertise, but they were essentially acting as team members within our organization to help in the software development of that 15% IP.
Member.
85% determined. How was that number landed on?
Demirdash.
There's no precise way. I mean, it's a approximation based on the full solution and looking at the components of it. In reality, when we consider the specific components that are in the IP that is owned by Canada Health InfoWay, that's based on the specific implementations that were requested of us, and the 85 and 15 is essentially just an approximation. It's no mathematical equation.
Honorable Member.
To what extent were there issues with the application itself, whether in terms of functionality, usability, reliability, or integration into clinical workflows that might have affected the adoption of this technology?
Mr. Demirdash.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The technology itself functioned precisely to the specifications that we were given and was at a 99.9% uptime. In fact, we were held accountable to reach that, and in some cases we actually gave some credits back to Canada Health InfoWay when, for one reason or another, it fell below 9%. However, as I had mentioned earlier, we did convene a clinical advisory board that did help identify for us, based on their perspective, that the design specifications for the user interface were not necessarily done in a way that was along with the natural workflow of the prescribers. So it made it a bit more difficult for them to complete the prescription activity and as well on the onboarding process. And those were recommendations that we provided to Canada Health InfoWay in April of 2021 in an attempt to help provide some of that feedback.
Member.
Thank you. And if providers and provinces were not satisfied with the product, what efforts did TELUS take to modernize or adapt the program to make it more attractive?
Mr. Al-Damardash.
Thank you for the question. It is important to recognize that we were developing the solution per the contract that we had in place with Canada Health InfoA and governed by developing and delivering on the specifications that we were given by Canada Health InfoA. What we did along the way is meet those specifications exactly to the letter of, that we were given. We did provide some ideas and recommendations, but that was up to Canada Health InfoA to come back to us and request those changes to be put in place.
Member.
How often did TELUS update, modify, and modernize the product? And did it take steps to solicit customer feedback to inform improvements?
Damardash.
The Clinical Advisory Board, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The Clinical Advisory Board was one of those ways where we got feedback and provided feedback to Canada Health InfoA. Another prominent way that we did that was to put together this e-prescription white paper that was released last year that provides overall recommendations, including the importance of having mandates and standards in place to drive adoption for e-prescription. As far as the initial part of the question on how often we made changes to the product, those were all governed by the process through the change orders that we would have received. We received 59 change orders through the life of the program, and we implemented all of those.
Minutes, 11 seconds. Okay, before we go to the next member, I would love to welcome Member of Parliament Fancy to the committee. And with that, we will go to Mr. Blanchett Jonka for 2.5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Dr. Vaughan, est-ce que vous pouvez confirmer que TELUS...
Dr. Vaughan, can you confirm that TELUS owns about 85% of the intellectual property that has to do with the prescribed platform?
For the question, Mr. Chair, yeah, I think that is a correct estimate, given that they have the ability to, in their hub, to integrate a variety of products.
Qui concrètement a négocié cette entente?
Who negotiated those terms?
I stop the watch.
Ask my colleague.
Okay, Miss Ansar, go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. The negotiation for TELUS was a fairly deep process. We actually had an RFP process that led to the selection of TELUS.
La question, c'est qui a négocié cette entente?
The question is who negotiated this agreement?
TELUS InfoA negotiated with TELUS with the aid of a professional negotiator.
Member.
Dr. Vaughan.
So, Dr. Vaughan, 85% of an IT program that is owned by a private company, and we're talking about $300 million of taxpayers' money. Is that a success or failure?
Thank you for the question. That 85% is a technical part that of the hub that TELUS has. The 15% of that part that is really what involves the opportunity to have an open standard approach that allows for the provinces and territories to use that. They
Honorable
can use
member.
that too.
Monsieur Eldemerdash.
Mr. Eldemerdash, how much money, taxpayers' money, did you receive from the government?
Mr. Al-Damardash.
Thank you for the question. TELUS Health received approximately an average of a little bit over $10 million per year over the 9 years of this program from
Total?
Canada Health InfoA.
Member.
Total?
So in total?
Al-Damardash.
To be precise, it was $98 million.
Est-ce qu'il est payé le programme enfin avec tout cet argent-là?
Mr. Chair,
The question was inaudible.
Mr. Blanchett Jonka, if one person speaks at a time, it will be easy for the interpreters because there's no interpretation. So I stop the watch. I give you the time, even though you have only 7 seconds left. But I'll ask, give you a question.
Avec l'ensemble de l'argent des fonds publics que vous
So
avez...
with all the public money you received, is the program paid up? is it paid for with all this money that has been received?
Dash.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The funding and the compensation that we received was for us meeting the specifications and the requirements of the contract that we had in place with Canada Health Infoway. And TELUS Health was successful in implementing all of the requirements that we received.
Monsieur le Président,
So,
c'est
I'm
oui
sorry.
ou non, il
Sorry,
est payé ou pas le programme?
Mr. Chair, it was a yes or no question.
Question, là.
Mr. Chair, they're not answering the question.
That
C'est un
is, I
cirque,
think,
là, ou quoi, là?
you can make arguments, but I'm going to go to the next one.
Ah non, Monsieur le Président, quand même, là.
Okay, we'll go to Madam Konraz for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Mr. Kalra, does Canada Health Infoway Executive Vice President Abby Kalra hold any shares or stock options in Loblaw Companies Limited since he was hired by Infoway? Yes or no?
Mr. Wong.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't sure who the question was directed to. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know.
Remember,
That would be part of the process of screening who you would hire as Executive Vice President, correct?
Dr. Wong.
Not aware that that question's ever been asked of any employee that was hired.
Okay,
Remember-
so that would be extremely important because that person would benefit from these contracts. So if you could please find out that information and table it for this.
Mr. Chair would be happy to have the HR people respond to that.
Thank you.
Honorable member.
My question, Dr. Vaughn, what year was CFO hired on an interim basis?
Dr. Wong.
Chair, I believe it was 2023.
Remember,
And we do know that he did work with Michael Green. Did Michael Green recommend him for the position, the interim position of CFO?
Dr. Wong.
Mr. Chair, I believe so.
Now, does the current CFO continue to be interim?
Dr. Wong.
That is my understanding, yes.
Honorable
He is
member.
interim, and he's been interim since 2024. That seems unusual that someone would be interim for more than 2 years, especially the number of employees you have. I'm sure you have HR people. Why would you have not gone out on for a competitive process for that position?
Dr. Wong.
Mr. Chair, the organization is, as I said, indicated earlier in relation to the Chief Financial Officer or the Chief Executive Officer. We're going through a period of transition to try and understand what skills we're going to be needing going forward. So once we have a new CEO in place, then we will be.
So Michael Green was not able. The new CEO will be able to decide or help decide who the CFO should be or how the competitive process should go, but the old Michael Green was not able to do that on $900,000 salary.
Dr. Wong.
Mr. Chair, we are in the process of looking at what kind of transitions we need to make in our new mandate, and it's going to be obviously different than what we had in the past, and so that would be a part of the job of the new CEO.
Honorable member.
Tell me if the CFO, the current CFO, owns any individual shares in public companies.
Dr. Wong.
Mr. Chair, I do not know the answer to that question.
I think it would be important for you to table that information and for the public to know before he becomes a permanent CFO, and since he's been there for 2 years. Can you tell me what his salary is,
Dr.
including
Wong.
bonuses?
Been publicly communicated in the documents.
I'd like
that
to
we
hear
sent
it here for the Canadian people.
Mr. Chair, I don't have that information before me, but it's been shared with the committee, and it's been publicly stated in the media.
The CFO's salary
I believe so.
has been publicly stated in the media. Okay, would you please table
CFO.
that immediately?
We will absolutely do that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have a question for Mr. I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, Demir-Dash. Thank you. Did you raise any concerns about any possible obstacles or challenges that Prescribe IT could face to Canada Health Infoway, the Department of Health, or the Minister of Health's office? And if so, I think you might have mentioned earlier you had 56 or 57 recommendations. Is that true? You did bring forward 57 concerns or 56 concerns?
Mr. Al-Damradesh.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Let me make sure that the numbers that I stated are clear and what they are. The 59 change orders were change requests that we received from Canada Health InfoWay to make changes to the initial requirements or specifications that were provided to us, and we implemented those changes. As per the first question that was asked, or the first part of the question around did we raise concerns, in April of 2021, we did provide a document to Canada Health InfoWay with an output from the clinical advisory board that we put together.
Excuse me.
10 seconds
What
to go.
what did they do with that and with that information?
Mr. Al-Damradesh.
Mr. Chair, I don't have the answer to that question. We provided it to them with a recommendation.
Do you know
and
if
that
they
was-
made any changes? Yes or no?
It's
It would come through some of the change orders, but not all of the requests that we, or the recommendations, I should say, would have come back to us.
much. Now we will go to Dr. Al Ols. Here we go. This is clear. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Dr. Olson, please go ahead.
I'd like to thank all the witnesses for coming. Now, I just want to make sure I understand to Dr. Vaughn regarding this system. The purpose of this system was one prescribing system that was compatible all across provinces because it was the same system. Had there been an expressed need for this? Had there been direction from government or from other agencies saying that was it generally acknowledged that this is what we needed so that in Canada people could have prescriptions that talk to each other across the provinces? Is that correct?
Vaughn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the question. It's an excellent question. Canada being the only OECD country that doesn't have a national prescribing service, at that time it was recognized that, as you are well aware, I'm sure, that patient safety, medication error is one of the top reasons for patient problems, and so it was recognized it was time that Canada adopted a national prescribing service.
Remember.
So the lack of uptake from prescribers is attributed to the fact that, as per experience in other countries, which gave incentives and mandates, that the provinces did not do this. At what point were the provinces were the provinces told that this is something that they should do to increase uptake, the provinces and territories?
The provinces, in many discussions with provinces and territories, at deputies' tables, at ministers' tables, and many other senior representative tables, the conversation around mandates and incentives was initiated. But we do not control the priorities of the provinces and territories.
Remember.
Thank you. And had the provinces and territories given any reasons or rationale for not adopting these?
Dr. Vaughn.
Mr. Chair, through you, the provinces and territories, I think, are always reluctant to adopt federally initiated ideas, concerned about long-term sustainability, perhaps, but I'd be speculating.
Honourable member.
All right. Thank you. Now, if the provinces and territories had agreed to do this, would it be fair to say that this program would be a success if the provinces had done what all these other nations had done that had directed that?
Dr. Vaughn.
Mr. Chair, through you, absolutely, that is the answer.
Honourable member.
Now, there's been advocacy for just simply give each province the money to do it, and they can develop, quote, their own system. What is the likelihood that 10 provinces and 3 territories independently funding their own programs, that this would be compatible across all provinces? Does that sound likely that you'd have a compatible system between all the provinces and territories?
Dr. Vaughan.
It is possible, Mr. Chair. It is also like, having no air traffic control across the country in every province and territory, deciding what the air traffic control regulations and rules would be. If you were flying from Halifax to Ottawa, you'd have to land in every province and territory. It's possible, but it is unlikely. The opportunity going forward is to use all the value that we have gained and to initiate the open standards, which still allows the exchange in a new way going forward.
Member.
Now, I guess this is, I don't know who would be the best to answer this, whether it be Dr. Vaughan or Dr. Eldemirdash. Everyone talks about, all the money that's gone into this program and saying that this money's been wasted. But I understand that the product is still there and will still work if implemented. So if any provinces or all provinces decided to start using this, would this work and be a success? Dr. Vaughan first.
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. That is the case. That it has been built. The highway analogy has been built, and if provinces and territories wish to populate that highway, absolutely, it can be used, and that's the benefit of the open standards. Frankly, going forward, is that they can customize their solutions to meet their particular needs and their workflow needs of their physicians and providers.
Thank you very much. 505, and we will go to Dr. Strauss for 5 minutes. Please go ahead, Dr. Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Dr. Vaughan. Some of the documents I've seen suggest that Canada Health Infoway has paid $2.5 million over 3 years to government relation firms, namely Sussex Strategy and Crestview Strategy. So Canada Health Infoway, as a creature of government appointees, then gave $2.5 million to get independent contractors to lobby governments. Do I have that correct?
Dr. Vaughan.
Mr. Chair, we did not lobby government, and there was no money spent for lobbying. Infoway does not lobby government.
He's lobbying with the $2.5 million.
Mr. Chair, if I could add that communications firm has helped Infoway in its consultations with stakeholder groups across the country.
How much money does Canada Health Infoway expect to receive from the federal government with respect to the implementation of this open standards initiative as outlined in Bill S5?
Dr. Vaughan.
Mr. Chair, that is still up to the federal government, and I do not have a figure for you.
What is the board per diem rate?
Mr. Chair, the board per diem rate is around $700, I believe.
Okay. Dr. Vaughan, could you provide to the committee a detailed breakdown of all of Canada Health Infoway's tendered contracts since 2016, including a description of the services rendered?
Dr. Vaughan.
Mr. Chair would be happy to do that.
Honourable member.
You keep using this analogy of a highway. The highway's built. The highway costs $300 million, but there's no traffic on the highway. For you personally as a taxpayer, if your province spent $300 million on a highway that nobody wants to use, maybe because of where it goes, would you call that a successful use of $300 million?
Mr. Chair, the analogy can be overextended, but it is an enablement over 10 years, that $300 million. So that money's been spent over 10 years.
Serves well with this extension. Because what I keep hearing you say, and you seem like a nice person, but it's offensive to me, the idea that doctors won't use this wonderful tool that we built unless we mandate or incentivize them, like force them or bribe them. Like, I'm a doctor, you're a doctor, we like to use technology to help our patients. If you make something and they don't want to use it, could it be because the thing is bad?
Dr. Vaughan.
Mr. Chair, I would refer to the international experience. All the OECD countries in Australia and New Zealand have gone through exactly this same juncture, the adoption requirement of mandating or incentives, and it was the same thing with EMRs, electronic medical records.
Yeah, so they had $400 million or thereabouts, and they used it for incentives, and we gave our $400 million to Canada Health Infoway, and now they have 95% of their prescribers using e-prescription, and we have less than 5%. So, maybe the difference is we have Canada Health Infoway, and they don't, and that's why we haven't succeeded.
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. All of those countries have a digital health agency, and all of them spent a comparatively similar amount of money at this juncture.
Honourable member.
But they succeeded. Mr. Eldemirdash, quick question. Is TELUS Health providing this sort of service in any other countries?
Mr. Al-Demirdash.
Thank you. Back to Dr. Vaughan. Were there any recusals for conflict of interest at board meetings during your tenure?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to think about that during my tenure.
Would you please table it with the committee?
One person at a time. I stopped the watch. I will let Dr. Vaughan finish.
I don't believe so, Mr. Chair. No, that's not true. I think there was one conversation from one member from Ontario who did recuse herself.
Dr. Strauss, please go ahead.
If somebody recuses themselves for a conflict of interest, and in that episode, do they stay in the room for the discussion and merely not vote, or do they leave the room?
Dr. Vaughan.
As I recall, the individual left the room.
One more question for Mr. Eldemirdash. If TELUS Health were to offer this service in another jurisdiction, how much would they charge?
Mr. Al-Demirdash.
Thank you for the question. That would depend on the requirements that would be set forth to us by the province or the jurisdiction and their requirements and what the program would entail.
Honourable member.
According to Canada Health Infoway documents, $167 million was spent on operation and overhead costs for Prescribe IT, of which $108 million was for personnel costs. Why did an outsourced technical platform require $108 million in personnel costs?
You have 10 seconds to respond.
I'll ask my colleague.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The money that we allocated to program operations included oversight for the work that we did, risk management, insurance, legal costs, engagement, marketing for awareness.
Quick point of order, Chair.
Your time is up.
Yeah, but it's a point of order.
Point of order you can take.
Could the clerk confirm with you that she's kept track of everything they've offered to table and that these things will be tabled within 2 weeks?
It is in the notes. It will be a part of the.
Thank you, Chair.
The prescription. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Strauss. Very well done. I appreciate your cooperation in this way. So now we will.
Point of order. Chair, just clarification. So we are running till what time?
5:50.
5:50, like 10 to 6.
5:50, yes.
10 to 6. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Now we will go to Dr. Zazik for 5 minutes. Please
thank
go
you,
ahead.
Chair.
Thank you.
And thank you to the witnesses. There have been a lot of important questions asked, and obviously your responses are duly noted. Dr. Vaughan, you made it very clear that you feel every other jurisdiction that has put in place a Prescribe It-like program, that they have provided incentives to physicians to use the program and also, in some cases, mandated through legislation that this program be adopted. When did you make this clear that this was your strong opinion, actually, through the process since you became chair of the board?
Dr. Vaughan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. It was clear early on that we were going to need mandating or legislation, and had talked to all of the provinces and territories around that. All the provinces and territories are at different places in this journey, and they have different priorities, and governments change, and when governments change, priorities change. And so it's an ongoing education of trying to educate new people coming in around what we are doing and what we're trying to do, and the need to look at incentives and legislation. You know, in my own province of Nova Scotia, we brought in legislation to connect electronic medical records across the province. The opportunity for us going forward in Nova Scotia is very much as a part of the open standards approach, because it fits in perfectly with the Nova Scotia needs.
Suggesting that with the open standards going forward, that there will be a need, is it either or, incentives or mandates?
It's a good question, Chair, my sense is from the international literature is very strong that mandating or incentives are what it takes to achieve adoption, just like we saw with electronic medical records 20 years ago.
In your consultations, you've mentioned deputy ministers, but to what extent did you involve in your promotion of the program? Because you knew you didn't have incentives, financial incentives, you didn't have mandates. So presumably you consulted broadly with medical associations, because deputy ministers could possibly be a little isolated from the field. So can you explain what kind of promotional activities you engaged in specifically to try and get more prescribers involved?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I'll ask my colleague, if you will, to answer the details.
Ansar, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. We undertook significant marketing awareness and stakeholder relations campaigns, including that with provinces and territories. We met with them at both a senior level at the deputy minister level, including as well as with staff level at the digital health group to work with them. The work with them was ongoing. In addition to that, we did a significant work with physicians. With pharmacists, we actually ran special programs where we had pharmacies in a community.
Excuse me, but you did have success with pharmacies, but I'm interested in the prescribers piece.
Right. Yes, what I was saying was that we used pharmacies in communities to reach out to their prescribers to try to bring them on board to help build adoption for the system. So the work that we did was multifaceted.
El Demirdash, you talked about your clinical advisory board. When did you establish that?
Mr. El Demirdash.
We use clinical advisory boards frequently for many of the products that we have to solicit feedback on them and to learn what are the needs that are out there. In this specific scenario, the clinical advisory board was in the early part of 2021.
Did you hear about incentives, or I'm not mandated to do it? Did you get any kind of feedback along that line, or was it purely technical related to the software?
Primary point of feedback that we received from the advisory board was around their wanting the process and the system to be a lot less frictionless for them in the way that they do their work, and that it was not, in some cases, taking into consideration their normal workflow and the normal way that they do their work.
Thank you, Dr. Ziazik. Time is up, 5:05. And we will go to now Mr. Blanchett Jonka for 2.5 minutes. Mr. Blanchett Jonka, one person at a time because of the interpretation. I'm not going to be in between you both, so please pay attention.
Monsieur le Président, vous le savez que mon temps est très limité.
Mr. Chair, you know that my time is very limited because, and if I cannot get an answer to my question, it's also your role to make sure that the witnesses are answering the questions. But they're not.
To them to say, I can't dictate what answer they should give. All I can say is I give them the time. It's up to them because it's up to you to ask a question again or make those comments. But anyways, let's start now with 2.5 minutes.
Besoin de votre aide là-dessus.
Okay.
I need your help because, yes, I'm asking the questions but not getting answers.
Monsieur Demirdash, TELUS a reçu environ
Mr. El Demirdash, so TELUS received about $98 million of public money for Prescribe-It. What was TELUS's initial estimation with regard to how much it would cost to develop the platform?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I don't know the answer to that question, as that was back in 2016, prior to me being part of TELUS Health. However, we can find the answer to that question and provide that to the committee.
Merci, Monsieur Demirdash.
Thank you. So you're confirming that TELUS owns 85% of intellectual property. Is that the case?
I'm sorry, if you can ask the question again, it was not clear.
Honorable member, please go ahead.
Monsieur le Président, là, c'est pas juste de...
Mr. Chair, it's not just sufficient to stop because when this happens, I'm losing time. I need to get the time back.
The time?
Je dois répéter la même question.
But I will have to repeat the same question, so I'm losing time.
I'm stopping, the watch is stopped.
Oui.
Okay? So you are not losing the time. You still get your full time.
Alors, vous me redonnez le temps que j'ai posé.
So you're giving me back the time it took for me to ask the last question.
Seconde, Monsieur le Président.
How many seconds, Mr. Chair?
1 minute and 48 seconds.
Alors, si je perds pas de temps, combien...
Okay, if I don't lose time, how much time are you giving me back for repeating the same question I asked?
Here, I have made it very clear. I'm sure it's clear to the honorable members. When I stop the watch, it means your time, whatever you're saying, I'm not taking your time away from 2.5 minutes. I hope it's clear to you now. Understand? Or
Pas vraiment très clair.
Not very clear. Mr. Eldemirdash, my question is, can the government use, modify, or transfer the prescribed technology without TELUS?
Mr. Eldemirdash.
Thank you for the question. The government and any other technical implementer can take the standards and certainly implement the same technology to whatever standards that there is. We've obviously spent a lot of time and funding of our own side as well in developing the technology that is being used in this solution.
Le gouvernement a seulement 15% de la propriété.
The government owns only 15% of intellectual property. Can they still make it work without TELUS with just that 15%, yes or no?
Thank you for the question. The solution, if they were not to utilize the TELUS Health technology that is underlying this highway that we talked about, they would have to find that from somewhere else in order to make the system work.
Si une province ou le Québec veut poursuivre le programme...
If a province or Quebec wants to continue this program, will they have to pay TELUS again a second time to use the program?
Thank you for the question. We would be in position to have discussions, and we are having discussions with several provinces at the moment to help in the transition and to keep the programs going. But it would be based on the requirements and the needs of each of the provinces.
22 seconds.
Monsieur Demirdash, avez-vous déjà eu...
Mr. Eldemirdash, have you had agreements with, you've already had agreements with the government and you own 85% of the intellectual property and the software we're talking about?
Seconds.
It's important to recognize as well that the speed to development of the solution was enabled by the fact that we had a lot of this technology already in place in advance, and that was helpful to getting the solution in place for Canadians faster.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Mr. Major for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Vaughan, Dr. Vaughan, how was Mr. Green informed that he was fired as CEO from Canada Health Infoway?
Dr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I informed him via virtually, by technology.
Virtually. Can we get a copy of that letter? I guess there was some kind of written, in that more so we want to know why he was fired. So the detail, he must have been given a reason, so that would be great if we could get that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to provide that.
Dr. Vaughan, according to Health Canada's Infoway documents, $167 million was spent on operations and overhead costs for prescribed IT, of which $108 million was for personal costs. Will you be able to table a full breakdown of those personnel costs with the committee?
If it's the desire of the committee.
If the committee wants that information, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Vaughan, according to page 24 of Infoway's 24-25 annual report, there were 3 instances of Canada Health Infoway entering into contribution agreements, which entities funded by the Government of Canada, dated April 20, January 24th, 2022, and January 31st, 2025. Can you identify these entities?
Dr. Vaughan.
I'm not sure what the question is.
I'm going to stop the watch and ask the honourable member to repeat the question.
There was 3 contribution agreements, and they were instances where Canada Health Infoway entering into 3 contribution agreements with entities funded by the Government of Canada dated April 1st, January 2020, January 4th, 2022, and January 31st, 2025. Can you identify these entities? So, or if you could table them, that would be great.
Dr. Vaughan.
Be happy to table that if that's what the committee needs or wants.
Thank you. Dr. Vaughan, are any of the executives at Canada Health Infoway provided with a driver, a vehicle, or a car allowance?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. The only individual who had a car allowance was the former CEO.
Could you table his compensation with the model of the car and how many dollars he actually got paid for that vehicle?
Mr. Chair, we can do that. It's all part of his package of remuneration.
So I guess that was the complete of the $900,000. That was on top of the $900,000.
No, it was included in that.
Oh, okay. Dr. Vaughan, I guess since Prescribe IT launched in 2017, how many times has the Infoway board awarded executives with a maximum possible performance bonuses versus a reduced bonus or no bonus?
Mr. Chair, because Canada Health Infoway Prescribe It program did achieve its milestones and did deliver on its mandate, the remuneration was consistent with the fact that they did deliver the program.
Thank you. I'll pass my remaining time off to Mr. Jean-Cas Blanchet.
Mr. Blanchet-Jean-Cas, go ahead. You have 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Merci. Dr. Vaughan, depuis...
Dr. Vaughan, since you've been the chair of a board, so March 2017, did you have discussions with ministers or governments with regard to the viability, adoption, or the potential success of Prescribe It? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, there have been several conversations with various ministers of health.
Ces rencontres ont-elles eu lieu avant la décision?
So these meetings, were they before the decision to put an end to the program, yes or no?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Because we were concerned about the funding, obviously, of the program, there were many conversations before and after.
Ces discussions ont-elles impliqué Santé Canada, le secrétaire?
So these discussions, did they involve Health Canada, the Treasury Board, or any ministry or any department or the cabinet?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. There were extensive and ongoing conversations with Health Canada. We do not directly deal with the Treasury Board, and as a part of that, with the Minister's Office.
Est-ce que ces échanges portaient explicitement sur la faible adoption du programme?
Did these discussions have to do with the weak uptake of the program or financial viability?
Mr. Chair, thank you for that question. Yes, that was a concern of ours, and all ideas how we can get provinces and territories to either mandate or incentivize. Yes.
Quelles mesures concrètes le gouvernement a-t-il prises à la suite de ces
What
échanges?
concrete measures did the government take after these exchanges?
The governments, I think, were concerned. The government, Mr. Chair, was keen to have the conversations at the federal and provincial territorial ministers of health conference, and that was discussed there as well as the conference of deputy ministers. So that was brought forward by the federal government.
Monsieur le Président, simplement vous informer, je vais déposer la motion. Je pense
Mr.
que
Chair, just to let you know, I'm going to move a motion on the decisions that were made. I'm going to read the following motion: that the committee invite the Minister of Health as well as representatives of Canada Health and the Treasury Board of Canada to appear for at least 2 hours on Prescribe It, especially with regard to decisions to continue funding, to fulfill the program, the transition management, the consequences for Quebec and the provinces in the 2 weeks following the adoption of this motion or at the earliest opportunity.
You open for debate, Mr. Mazier. Please go ahead, and then Dr.
need to distribute the motion.
Motion first, okay. So we have to distribute the motion first, and I have 10 minutes.
We can suspend for 1 minute.
Okay, we'll suspend the meeting for the.
getting a better understanding of Canada Health Infoway. I mean, we are talking about $300 million that is basically still missing. There was no answers here I heard today that would be actually justifying anything more than what we actually found out over the last couple of weeks just by digging ourselves. There's reports today. We all of a sudden found out that there was Health Infoway wasn't even keeping their website updated. I mean, that should kind of tell some indication of just how they ran programs, managed programs. And I think the more shocking testimony today was around how the chair of Canada Health Infoway, Dr. Vaughan, has not talked to our current health minister. I think that should be very concerning. This has been a very public kind of disposition we've been having here, and a conversation, and the media's picked up on it. Liberals have been trying to cover it up. They've shut off the cameras once on us, tried to even find out to get the Auditor General in here, and we still haven't heard back from her. So there's lots of questions here, and there's lots of attention, and I think it would serve the Canadian public, and it would serve everyone here a lot better if we did get the minister in here and have her answer these very, very important questions. Because this is not just $300 million. This is a 10-year wreck. And unbelievable. And the complete disregard for the outcomes of this program is unbelievable. I cannot believe every time I open up a document and researching this program and how Canada Health Infoway has done in the last decade is just deplorable. And I'm getting lots of emails, lots of phone calls of very frustrated taxpayers and Canadians. How dare they pull this off? So, with that, I fully support this motion. That's all I have to say about that.
Mr. A. Olson. Dr. A. Olson, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Chair. And I agree. This is all worth looking into. I'd like to move an amendment to this to remove and the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat and remove within 2 weeks of the adoption or motion.
Amendment on the floor. So, debate on the amendment. Madam Kononats, please go ahead.
Well, we're going to need to bring this information forward to the Canadian public. And unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks, we've had instances where we've had information that's been behind closed doors and that is won't be available to the Canadian public for 30 years. So let's not do that again. Let's get this information forward. So I can't support this amendment because people want to know now, and I know every MP around this table is wondering what happened to the $300,000 as my 300 million. Yeah, you're right. It's 300 million. Crazy. 300 million. And it's so wrong that we have testimony and witnesses that say it's okay, it's a success. We've lost 300 million, but it's a success. It is wrong. So let's get the health minister in here to answer questions. That's her job. And we need to get her in quickly because, again, this is going to be, I'm sure, the media and Canadian people are going to want to know why the minister can't come in right away.
Okay. Mr. Blanchett, Jonka, and then Dr. A. Olson.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Écoutez, on a présentement un ajustement.
Thank you very much, Chair. Now, unfortunately, the government is trying to underplay the accountability aspect of its actions. We're talking about $300 million, Mr. Chair, on a program that is coming to an end in a couple of weeks at the end of May. And now they're trying to remove the Treasury Board. Well, to explain to the people who are tuning in, the Treasury Board is the one signing the checks. They are managing the money. And now we're being told, well, we don't really have a lot of explanation from the colleagues, but the ones who are managing the money, they are not supposed to come here and explain to us when they make these decisions with financial management. So it's very relevant to have the Treasury Board because we're talking about public money, management, contracts, and canceling these contracts, transition, accountability. So, I mean, they need to be here. They are the ones making such decisions. So if you want to understand the admin and financial decisions around Prescribe It, the Treasury Board is a relevant witness. So deleting the Treasury Board would limit the committee's capacity to trace public funding and ensure accountability. And deleting 2 weeks, while you lose $300 million in a public prescription program, that doesn't seem to be a priority for the government. They're not interested in understanding what happened and what we can learn from these mistakes, so they don't want to have a deadline. That's what they want to delete that. So the motion, it can be we can keep kicking the can down the road. So after $300 million and a program that will come to an end soon, the committee, in my opinion, has to act with urgency. It's been a number of weeks, and you know this full well, that we're trying to ask questions and get information and documents from the government. So 2 weeks or at the earliest opportunity is what the motion I moved says. I think it's reasonable. Mr. Chair, the reason it's reasonable and it's important is that the Liberal government has added another scandal to the long list, Phoenix, ArriveCan, and I also would like to remind you, Curam. And now, today, another one is added to the list, Prescribe It. So the government is trying to sweep this under the rug, telling us it's not important to talk about this, that it's not necessary that we shed light with independent public inquiries, despite the fact that we haven't hit the targets. So Mr. Enser told us today that for the program to be viable, the target rate was 75%, but they ended up with 5%, $300 million later. And the government doesn't find this important. They're not thinking we need to have an inquiry on this to get to the facts and to make sure that this will not happen again. Well, I invite the colleagues on the government side to be good financial managers. If we are to take inspiration from what the Prime Minister said, we need to do a better job of public financial management. That's not what they showed us in the latest budget. They came up to us with the largest deficit in Canadian history. So being good fiscal managers of public money and shedding light on the Prescribe It program is absolutely necessary. And this is a question I've been asking for a while, and I will share it with my colleagues, members of the committee, and with the entire population. The government must have known this at some point, that there were problems, because they did a study on viability of the program in 2023, but they continued. They kept investing, and 2 years later, in 2025, they took the decision to completely withdraw our share, if you will, in this program. So I would like us to be able to have these witnesses to explain their different actions, because after they decided to put an end to the program, there's another $10 million that got added to the bill. So I hope, Mr. Chair, that my colleagues will see reason. The motion, in my opinion, is completely reasonable and legitimate.
Dr. A. Olson, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And actually, there is merit to Mr. Blanchette-Joncas's statements. What I would like to propose is perhaps a friendly amendment is we're willing to remove the amendment about removing the Secretariat. So the invitation would include the Secretariat. However, given that the Minister and the staff of the Secretariat have very busy schedules, it might be not feasible to come in 2 weeks. I would therefore like to amend the motion to simply say to remove the within 2 weeks.
We have an amendment on the floor. floor. First, we have to decide the amendment. Then you can propose another. Okay.
May I have? Yeah. Yes, may I have
Unless I have a unanimous.
May I have
consent.
unanimous consent to remove my reference to the Secretariat?
Okay, if there's a unanimous consent, only then. Otherwise, no long talk.
Monsieur le Président, juste une précision.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I mean, why was it not important to hear from the Treasury Board a couple of minutes ago, and why has it become important now, if he can explain that to us?
Olson.
Because on further consideration and listening to your arguments, it then made sense, and therefore we decided to agree with this.
Okay, is there a unanimous consent? Yes. Yes. So, okay, Dr. A. Olson, continue. You have the floor.
Now that we have unanimous consent, I'm making the amended motion to remove 2 weeks from the motion.
Okay, unanimous consent? No? Okay, Mr. A. Olson, there's no unanimous consent. You want to continue the debate, or you have the floor?
Okay, I have the floor, then I move we adjourn debate.
Okay, motion to adjourn the debate, clerk to take the vote. It's a non-debatable motion.
Ms. Jaczek.
In favor of the amendment. It's on the amendment.
It's on the amendment.
I'm in favor of the amendment.
So we are adjourning the debate on the amendment. So
Rappel au règlement, Monsieur le
then we'll
Président.
take the vote.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order.
Amendment, we are back to the main motion.
Motion, yeah.
Oui.
If you want to adjourn the vote, I will take.
To the honorable members, because if we adjourn the debate on the amendment, then we cannot go back to the main motion, right? You see?
We debate the amendment,
No,
because I moved the amendment.
we are voting on the amendment.
Oh, we're voting in the amendment?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so it's not the adjourn the debate.
It's not the adjourn the debate. It's to
voting on
vote
the
on that. Voting, okay. Is members very clear about this? That we are voting on the amendment. Okay? Mr. Blanchard Janka, are you clear?
Très bon, Monsieur le Président, mais juste vous dire.
Very good, Mr. Chair. But I asked for the floor before you agreed to adjourn the debate.
No, he had the floor. Because as long as Dr. A. Olson had the floor, you are the next speaker on the line, but he is the one who has brought that forward. So he has the right as an honorable member to bring that forward, and I'm following the standing orders. Okay, thank you. So with that, let's vote and continue. Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Blanchard Janka.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, j'en comprends que là, vous voulez.
Mr. Chair, so you want to adjourn debate? You don't want us to continue talking about the amendment?
That's a motion on the floor. Then it's a non-debatable.
We are voting on the amendment, not to adjourn the debate.
No, we are voting on the amendment right now, right? And then we will come to the motion as amended. Right? Clear? Then we'll come to the motion as amended. Okay, so let's take the vote. The honorable members are very clear that we'll take the vote on the amendment. Please go ahead,
Ms.
Madam
Elson.
Clerk.
Yes.
Ms. Jaczek.
Yes.
Mr. Rana.
Yes.
Mr. Sawatsky.
Yes.
Ms. Fancy.
Yes.
Ms. Sidhu.
Yes.
Ms. Conance.
No.
Mr. Gill.
No.
Mr. Mazier.
No.
Mr. Strauss. Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca.
Non.
So the amendment is carried. We are back to motion as amended. Mr. Blanchett-Jonca.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Écoutez,
Thank you, Chair. Well, colleagues from the government are trying to protect the minister's agenda, so I'd like to congratulate them on that. But I am going to also move or question the amendment. Would it be satisfactory for the government if we say a month? I mean, is that urgent enough for the minister to appear? I'm happy to go until the parliamentary sitting period. So I would like us to come to an agreement and make sure that at least we have the people we are inviting by the end of this parliament, before the summer break rather, which is June 19th.
We have Dr. A. Olson on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no idea what the current schedule is of the health minister. The health minister may have other commitments that are unbreakable. We do not want to put the health minister in any position that she would be unable to attend in any timeline. We agree that the health minister should come, but a timeline at this point would be unworkable.
Okay, thank you. I have Mr. Major and then Madam Konats.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think before the summer break, I think is more than adequate time. That'll give her almost 2 months. So I would support that amendment, and I think that sends a very clear signal that we understand that she's a very busy minister, but there's some pretty serious things that she needs to clear up here as well. And I think 2 months is lots of time for her to come here.
Madam Konats.
Yes, I support what my colleague just said, and it really is respecting her timelines, but she needs to be available for this committee, and that should be within before we stop sitting for the summer. And I would appreciate, I think all Canadians would appreciate her coming to this committee and explaining what happened with Prescribe IT.
Mr. Gill.
Chair, we are here to shine a light on what happened. We're talking about $300 million. This is not chump change. This is where hardworking people, without question, paid their taxes. They deserve answers. And the least the minister can do is find some time to get here and answer those questions. This is not an unreasonable request. And to put it off indefinitely, more than a month or 2 months, is absolutely unacceptable. This is not what the Canadian people expect or deserve, more importantly. There has to be a time frame set out to say this is the timeline where you can come in and say this is what we need from you. 2 months is more than enough, especially after what we've heard today. So I would humbly pray to you and the colleagues on the other side that please find a way in your hearts to go tell the Minister of Health to come back and testify here, as well as the Treasury Secretary.
First thing first, the motion is out of order, but I let it go. So let's take a vote and get it out of the way. I think we have enough discussion. Amendment. The amendment is out of the way. Out of.
Why?
You want me to read it? But I mean, I think it's better.
We have the. You have the floor and
appel au règlement.
Point of order.
An amendment is out of order procedurally if it originates with the mover of the main motion.
Okay.
Appel au règlement.
We'll do it. Okay, I'll move it. So I move that motion. So would that put it back in order?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I move it.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So any more debate?
So now it's back to.
But suspend?
I need to talk about this. You've made some interesting points.
2 minutes? Okay. should we let the witnesses go? I think because we are already past there. So I will release the witnesses. Thank you very much on behalf of the committee for your participation. Okay, suspended. Order. Okay, if there is any debate on the amendment, if not, we'll,
Just for clarification, what is the amendment?
amendment that you proposed.
Okay, so I
Okay.
guess, just to bring the audience back up to speed here. So this is actually to remove, no timelines on the minister for coming to committee? Or what is the actual, if you could read the amendment of what it's actually doing?
Mr. Blanchard has the amendment. It's the amendment. Mr. Blanchard has the amendment. And you had to take it over. Because it didn't say who did it.
Okay, you have the final,
So there's basically no timeline?
no timeline,
Just get the minister in here.
right,
With no timeline.
no timeline.
And there was, because, okay.
Okay? Okay, everybody clear?
He introduced an amendment.
Because he cannot bring in the amendment
Right,
because
so I
that
did.
amendment is out of order, right? Because he is the mover of the main motion, so he cannot bring in the amendment.
Here's the amendment. I'll read it.
Okay.
So that given the committee believes in transparency and accountability for Canadian taxpayers, the committee summoned Michael Green, former president, CEO Canada Health Infoway, to testify on prescribed IT within 3 weeks of adoption of the motion. Oh, okay. Oh,
I mean,
I just adopted a new
But
motion.
thing is, Mr. Major, you know what, I think we should not play tricks, and I mean, we all should work together in this committee. So if I'm very respectful to all the members. If I give the floor, then let's stick to the serious talk and serious matter, because this is a serious committee, dealing with the health of Canadians. So with that, Mr. Blanchard, do you have anything to say?
Oui, je souhaitais tout à l'heure, Monsieur le Président, je pense qu'il y a eu confusion.
Well, I think we seem to be confusion. We were trying to find a friendly settlement on the amendment to give the minister more time to appear. That seemed to be the issue, and I thought that I would be happy to let it extend until June 19th. So I just wanted to see from my colleagues if they were in agreement with that, because that seemed to be the only issue. Can we have unanimous consent on that?
Consent, you're, as I said, then it's out of order, right? So, and Is there a unanimous consent? No, there's no unanimous consent, so I will call the...
So did we ever get a clarification what the actual motion reads?
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So I have it here now, actually.
I have
So
it.
that the committee invite the Minister of Health, as well as officials from Canada Health and Treasury Board and Canada Secretary to appear for at least 2 hours on prescribed IT, including decisions related to the continuation of funding, the termination of the program, management transition of consequences for Quebec within 2 weeks of adoption of this motion.
No. The
So
Quebec
now we're talking about a month.
or at the earliest opportunity.
Okay.
Okay?
Or the earliest opportunity.
Yeah, after Quebec, comma.
The
or
amendment
at
is
the
for 1
earliest.
month. So out of all that, and then the amendment is for 1 month.
Amendment. Okay.
For
so
is
there's-
1 month. That's the clarification. Instead of for 2 weeks, for 1 month.
So there is an amendment brought in forward by Mr. Mazier. After Quebec, it's within 1 month.
Of adoption of this motion.
Adoption of this motion, or at the earliest convenience. Okay?
So
Is
can
there
we
any?
get just UC on that? Can we get, you just set a vote on it?
There's no unanimous
agreement?
consent. I don't see so
Okay.
let's take a vote on this. Okay? Because there's no unanimous consent, I will ask the clerk to take a vote on the amendment as brought forward by Mr. Mazier. Okay.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair.
The vote now. Let me get the vote out of the way, and then I'll come back to you.
Ms. Sidhu?
No.
Mr. Sawatsky?
No.
Mr. Rana? No. Ms. Jaczek?
No.
Mr. Epson?
No.
Miss Fancy?
No.
Miss Conans?
Yes.
Mr. Gill? Yes. Mr. Mazier?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss? Yes. Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca? Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca?
Mr. Blanchard.
Pouvez-vous répéter la motion, Monsieur le Président?
Could you repeat the motion?
That the committee invite the Minister of Health as well as officials from the Health Canada and the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat to appear for at least 2 hours on the subject of prescribed IT, including decisions related to the continuation of funding, the termination of the program, the management of the transition, and the consequences for Quebec within 1 month of the adoptionist motion or at the earliest opportunity.
Oui.
Yes.
Motion is defeated. We are back to the motion as amended. So should we take a vote on that? Okay.
Point of order, maybe we read the amended motion that we're now voting on?
Okay. The amended motion is that the committee invite the Minister of Health as well as officials from Health Canada and the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat to appear for at least 2 hours on the subject of prescribed IT, including decisions related to the continuation of funding, the termination of the program, the management of the transition, and the consequences for Quebec. That's it, at the earliest convenience. Mr. Blanchet-Jonca.
Monsieur le Président, je pense que c'est important d'expliquer.
Mr. Chair, we have to explain to Canadians what's happening. The government is saying the Treasury Board that was not important. Well, actually, it is important. Now they say the issue is 2 weeks. Now I propose up until the 19th of June. We're the 5th of May, Mr. Chair. If the Minister of Health is not able to find time to come to this committee for a program that costs $300 million, that will end in a couple of weeks, it's a reasonable delay. what the government is trying to say is they do not want timelines. That means that the minister could say, well, I'm too busy, I can't come, I don't want to come. We gave them a month and a half, almost 2 months. We gave them a month. It's not enough. So, Mr. Chair, it's quite simple. The government doesn't want the minister to come to the committee. But the truth, and we've heard from the president of InfoA, he said clearly that they had some discussions with the minister, the cabinet, some members of the government, and he said, Mr. Vaughan said, Mr. Chair, this person, he's president of InfoA since March of 2017. And the government isn't able to take account with respect to this new scandal. He says the Minister of Health wouldn't have time to meet us. It's unbelievable, Mr. Chair. And this is what we have for them. We've already passed a motion last February when the government was in a minority situation. And motions were passed more frequently. And the motion was asking the Minister of Health to come on the file that needs to be studied by the Parliamentary Budget Officer when it comes to another scandal, which is the service for asylum seekers for different treatment. The Minister of Health was asked to come after the 23rd of May, so she will have to come one day or the other. I think that the government is saying today that they do not want to shed light on this issue because they don't want to respect the timeline. So we won't be able to ask questions to a representative of the government. And this is the Minister of Health. She's been in this position since April of 2025. And the last fall of 2025, her government decided to put an end to this program Prescribe IT. So we should be able to ask her questions. So, Mr. Chair, it's quite clear. First off, they do not want to take responsibility for the scandal. Second, they don't want to take account. They're saying there's a logistical issue because the minister is too busy. And third, even when we act in good faith, we've been saying how much time does the minister need? Is it a month? Is it a month and a half? Is it 2 months? And they say, no, we do not want to have a timeline for her.
And so I'll be specific. I went to go see members of the government. I asked what would be reasonable. They don't want to answer me, Mr. Chair. Just like with the public. These people have to be held accountable, but we see that they're protecting their interests. Because, of course, by bringing the minister here, we'll be able to ask why, what happened. And she will have to take responsibility. The motion had some flexibility. We're not asking for the impossible, in my opinion. If everything had been well managed, it wouldn't have been difficult to come here and explain. But one thing is sure, is that we're not going to give up, and we're going to keep insisting the government shed light on this, because people made bad decisions. It doesn't make them bad people. But if we had the facts and the documents, which of course the government doesn't want to give us, imagine, Mr. Chair, we're asking why a $300 million program flopped. Why, within the government, since 2017 to 2026, no one saw that it was going to fail. Ministerial responsibility is a principle in our democratic system. And now there are people today who don't want to apply the rules of that democratic system. Well, they have a majority thanks to floor crossers. That clearly shows that's not great respect for democracy. And now they're adding a layer. We have a government that does not want the minister to be accountable and explain what decisions she took and why, based on what information. That's what we're asking for today, Mr. Chair. So I hope that the public is listening to us carefully today and will understand that, unfortunately, right now we have a government that's hiding things from us, claiming that their minister is too busy. Mr. Chair, I hope that colleagues will explain to their voters that they don't want for their government to explain their bad decisions. I'll be proud to say to the voters I proudly represent that we did everything we could on this file in order to try and get answers. And once again, today, we'll have to get used to it. This government has already taken on some bad habits with the bad management of its IT programs and its financial programs. Here's what I want to say on this latest Liberal scandal. Prescribe it.
Thank you. We will go to Dr. A. Al-Hassan. Please go ahead.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Non-debatable motion. Clerk, take the vote, please.
Monsieur le Président, comment ça?
Mr. Chair, how's that possible? Mr. Chair.
Chair, point of order?
There's no point of order during the vote.
Oui.
Yes, there is.
Rappel au règlement.
Point of order.
Mr. Rana. Yes. Ms. Jackzek.
Yes.
Mr. Elfson.
Yes.
Ms. Fancy.
Yes.
Ms. Conance.
The cover-up continues. I vote no.
Mr. Gill.
No.
Mr. Mazier.
I guess I don't know why. We have resources. We have everything here. All we want to do is vote and get the minister in here. And I guess
Just
this is
or
against
no,
it,
please.
right?
Yes or no. There's a motion on the floor.
I don't want to adjourn. I don't want to have a cover-up anymore. No, I don't want to do this.
Okay, next member.
Mr. Strauss.
Obviously, no.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca.
Monsieur le Président, un nouveau scandale.
Mr. Chair, new Liberal scandal covered up by adjourning this committee. It's a shame for taxpayers. I vote no to adjourn this important meeting.
Yes, 6 minus 5.
Motion carried, meeting adjourned.